Hello everyone. Let's try that again. Today, I am going to show off Far Cry 4 because I've been playing it a little too much, and I think it's time. I believe I'm far enough into it now to give you an honest impression, hopefully something at least somewhat valuable to people, and show you what I think. So, welcome to Kyrat. So I guess that's the first thing to talk about really is what's new, because a lot of people played Far Cry 3, a lot of people, and it was awesome for what it was, but it had some issues, and this one's no different. I mean, it's a Ubisoft franchise, yeah? Ubisoft, they don't innovate a lot. They do what they do, and in my opinion, they usually do it quite well, but they stick to what they know, let's just say, and they iterate on what they have, they don't innovate that much, and this is definitely, you know, this isn't going to surprise you. Let's just go ahead and be honest with ourselves here. Start the video out saying if you don't like Far Cry, this one's not going to change your mind. If Far Cry is something that you never enjoyed, the whole first-person open world style, then you know, you're not gonna find a lot different here that is going to pull your interest, but it's different enough, I feel, for those that were fans to find more enjoyment out of. So, to start off, I guess I'd just like to talk about what's different this time, because people seeing it are going to say that it looks very similar to Far Cry 3, and of course, they're right about that. It does look quite similar. First of all, the setting. The setting is a big deal. We're just going to drive through these areas now. The setting is a place called Kyrat, and it is basically India, Nepal, that area of the world, and thus you have things like that. These beautiful vistas with the Himalayas in the background. The Himalayas feature rather prominently, and in fact, without spoiling anything, you will be headed there at least once for a mission. I'm going to go into combat now. And it is still an open world first-person shooter with RPG elements. It has the same kind of focus on leveling up for skill points, on hunting, on crafting, and on stealth being a pretty good factor. Also, I have a purple gun, so, you know. And what I think most people found at first, oh jeez, was that when it first came out, it was a little hard to run on a lot of systems. Yeah, that hasn't been fixed entirely. I'm gonna be totally honest. The performance of the game is all over the place. That's... If you're gonna have one worry... Oh, you sidestepped that. Performance is a good one, because it's not perfect. There's a rather significant difference for a lot of people, in between the way Far Cry 3 ran, which was very, very well, and the way Far Cry 4 runs, which is not as well. Now, I get anywhere from 50 to like 110 frames per second on this game on maximum settings. That's kind of absurd, like that's a big variance, and it mostly depends on how much foliage is in the shot. Like for instance, this shot I'm getting about 48, but if I turn over this way, I get about 53. Pretty good, there's not as much going on. And if I look off in the distance, where there's less detail and things like trees and stuff like that, like if I just look towards the mountains, I'm hitting a good 60. So, performance is a bugbear that a lot of people have been talking about recently. The NVIDIA drivers that just released fix some of that, but not all of it. And SLI is still going to have some problems with ghosting. So SLI ghosting, the flickering of textures, is a bit of an issue. So that's something I just want to get out of the way from the beginning. The game doesn't perform as well as it should, in my opinion. It's gotten better from release. The NVIDIA drivers helped a lot, and there are certain settings that you can tweak because the Dunia engine, the engine this runs on, is pretty scalable to make it run better. But sadly, for a lot of people, it's still not running as well as they'd like. And the other, oh god, the other PC port issue I want to mention is that there's mouse acceleration. The mouse acceleration is actually pretty significant at first, unfortunately. You're going to be seeing... yeah, it's bad. I'm gonna be honest. The mouse acceleration is bad. But there is a fix available, and I'll post the link in the description to this video to the PC Gaming Wiki page, and it will help you with that. Now, the fix they suggest, which involves going into the XML files in your documents and changing 5 different lines relating to smoothness from a 1 to a 0, will help, but it doesn't solve the problem entirely. So some people are still experiencing some acceleration issues, even with that fix, but they are lessened almost across the board for everyone, but it's a bit of a crapshoot whether or not it'll solve it completely for you, so. With those concerns out of the way, let's talk about the game. So, Ubisoft Montreal's newest entry into the Far Cry series. So, what's the focus of Far Cry for people? Characters. Are there still good characters? Yes, the characters are awesome. Everyone's seen Pagan Min. Yeah, everyone knows that Troy Baker chases you across the Himalayas and tries to kill you all the time. Pagan Min is great. His voice acting is phenomenal. It's really good, and him as a character is a very interesting villain that sometimes you can't help but sympathize with, even more than the good guys occasionally, because the good guys aren't exactly good all the time. And this is going to be a spoiler-free video. I'm not going to do any story missions or anything, because it's a very story-focused game. We're going to focus on some random exploration and just kind of faffing about while I talk. But the story is great this time around. AJ, or Ajay, the protagonist, is a better protagonist, in my opinion, than Jason Brody was from Far Cry 3, because, personally, I didn't like Jason. I thought he was a bit of a douchebag, and everyone knows that Voss was an awesome character. Everyone loved Voss. And you can kind of tell that they wanted to try and strike lightning again by making a really good, interesting villain. And they have succeeded, in my opinion. Pagan is great. He's weird in all the right ways, and he's very eccentric. He talks in very strange ways. He'll just be very calm and then suddenly be very, very hyped up and angry and then very calm again. It's that kind of contained insanity that Voss had that made him so interesting. And the world itself actually feels more alive this time around, and what I mean by that is there's more to do, but not only is there more to do, there's more detail in the world. Far Cry 3 had a pretty good world, but it was a bit standard. It was tropical island, on Rook Island, doing nothing of particular importance. This time you're in the Himalayas, and there's a lot more cultural relevance going around. There's a lot more doing drugs. There's a lot more conflict, because on Rook Island, basically you were just there, and there were pirates. In this case, you're actually thrown into the middle of a civil war that's going on in between some freedom fighters known as the Golden Path, who you are allied with currently, at least, against the Royal Army, because King Pagan is a bit of a nutjob. And, again, I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but it's a much more interesting setting and story, in my opinion, than 3 had. There's a lot more impetus for your character to want to figure out what's going on in the world, but I feel like he's much more of a blank slate than Brody was. Brody had a personality, even if it wasn't very likable, in my opinion. AJ actually doesn't have that much of a backstory yet. I mean, people know the whole story of he's here to scatter his mother's ashes. Like, 10 hours into the game, that's literally all I know about him still. Like, why can he use guns? Why can he fly a helicopter? Why can he hang glide? Like, it's not explained, really, and I don't know if they ever will. I don't know if he's meant to be a blank slate for people to make into their own, or if he's gonna have more development later on. But still, I like him more than Brody, so that's something. So let's talk about what to do in the world. Collectibles! You may be hearing that weird chanting in the background and see the circle on the map. This is a type of collectible, a new one. So you're gonna find these notes and stuff everywhere that tell you all kinds of nonsense, and they lead you to various things, and in this case, there's a mask near. There are these things called Masks of Yalong, I believe, is how you would say that. And Yalong is some kind of demon, and there's a crazed serial killer that's calling himself the Goat, and he leaves those crazy notes everywhere. That wasn't one of his, but he leaves them, and basically he's killing people, dumping them with one of these masks, and you're to go into these areas and find the mask. You interact with it to pick it up, or you just shoot it and break it, and that's the collectible done. You follow the audio cue and it leads you to it, and each of these has an interesting little story connected to them. Usually you can kind of guess how that person died. If you find the note left by the Goat, what kind of sacrifice they're meant to be for. He's a very disturbing man, whoever he is, but find those masks. So let's talk about the whole collectible thing. Yeah, Ubisoft games have collectibles all over the place. constant collectibles. In this case, they've done a bit of a better job with them because they're contextualized a bit better. In the original, well, in Far Cry 3 rather, not the original Far Cry, in Far Cry 3, collectibles were mostly just things that you picked up and that was that. In this case, they have either some kind of cultural relevance, like those masks with the story of a serial killer attached to them, or they are relevant to the story, like posters, propaganda posters that you're to burn or tear down to increase the morale for the Golden Path. And also, they have made them a little bit better by not only making them a little more contextualized within the story, but they've also made them give you different rewards. Obviously, you get things like experience for finding them, but also every certain number of them, and the number changes depending on what type of collectible you're collecting, you'll get a few different types of rewards, including things like new missions unlocking. For instance, the very first time you get a certain... Uh-oh. Gotta kill those hostages. That sucks. The first couple of those posters you burn down eventually will unlock a completely new quest type for you to do, which involves finding these big propaganda stations and burning them to the ground, destroying poster printers, destroying computers, and things like that. You're expected to eventually find another character that is unlocked by tearing down these posters, and that makes the collectibles tied into the story much more closely. And it makes it more interesting, in my opinion. There are also these. These are called Mani Wheels, which will lead us into another new system in the game. So, there's a karma system in the game, and as you're about to find out, I'm going to level up in karma level, which, I gotta say, it's kind of funny, because for once, having karma in the game actually makes sense, because you're in India. But, so, the karma system involves almost like another experience bar, as you'll see that one right there, that purple diamond. So, I'm now karma level 4. That's going to give me a bunch of bonus XP. So let's see what else it gives me. Just XP? That's it? XP? Yep. Alright, that's fine. And doing certain things will get you karma. So spinning these wheels, so one of the collectibles gets you karma. You will have seen that there was a hostage there. You saw that karma event thing pop up. The hostages are executed if they see you, and they saw me, so... If you complete one of those karma events, you will get a karma reward, depending on how well you did in the type of event. Also, those events make the world feel more alive, which I like, because, more or less, you're in a civil war, and there's going to be conflict all around. Unlike Rook Island of Far Cry 3, Kyrat in Far Cry 4 is not stable. Like, it's not stable at all. There are not just a ruling party of pirates with prisoners around. There are, like... full-fledged freedom fighters versus actual Royal Army soldiers. And there are constant spearheaded conflicts all over the place, and those karma events help to make the world feel a bit more full and alive, and not like it's this big open world full of nothing. Which I like. That was one of the problems I had with Far Cry 3, was that it was a world that was interesting to an extent, but didn't have much going for it beyond the characters. And the collectibles weren't really important in any way. They were just like little side things to get. The side missions were like MMO tier quests of go here, do this. And I feel like all that's been tightened up. And that's not to say the game is perfect, though. The game is definitely far from perfect. AI, for instance, has always been a problem in the Far Cry series, going all the way back to the originals where it was laughably bad. So, the AI is improved. I'll say that. Stealth is a bit different now. It's a bit more difficult, but for good reasons. You're seen from farther away, and you're seen a little quicker oftentimes. As you saw, those guys saw me through the trees fairly easily and were able to spot me before I got to the hostage and killed the hostage, which sucks for me. Ooh, actually, there's a good opportunity to show it off. We'll just go up here. And so the AI is improved. It's improved over 3 in detection distance and the way that they treat flanking you. There are, in fact, new enemy types that specialize in that. They can charm animals, they use bows and stealth and will crouch and attempt to flank you and come up behind you, and when you tag them with your camera, they don't stay tagged for more than a few seconds to make it more difficult to actually track them. So, that is improved, but improved doesn't mean fixed. The AI is still rather silly oftentimes and still does very strange things. It's not perfect. Stealth can either completely break the game, as in you'll like literally toss a grenade into someone's face like 5 feet away and no one else notices. Or you're seen from like half a mile away because you like farted in the wind and then they just immediately notice you. So sometimes the AI doesn't work properly, sometimes the stealth is really finicky, but it's better and less annoying, but again, that doesn't mean it's fully fixed. So here's something. That there is an elephant. Probably knew what that was, but I just figured I'd tell you. You can ride elephants in this game, and I want to show that to you because it's a lot of fun. So, you'll get a skill, and I'll show you the skill trees later, very early on, that lets you, lets you do this. These things are awesome. So, when you're on an elephant, even the most difficult of other enemies will run from you. Rhinos will not mess with you, and they could take a lot of bullets before they go down. So you can also use two-handed weapons on them. Every other kind of vehicle, you cannot use two-handed weapons in, like, you know, cars and things like that. So yeah, also they can do that. You can basically terrorize people while just like going nuts and shooting them. It's kind of great. Yeah. I like the whole elephant riding thing. I don't see it as a gimmick because there are actually plenty of situations in which an elephant is advantageous to have. Whether you're dealing with hunting certain animals that are very dangerous for you and actually cease to be dangerous for you as long as you have an elephant, or you're storming an outpost, because that's what I'm doing right now, and it works. It works fantastically. You can even throw cars around and stuff, but a certain amount of stealth is still useful, because even though you're seen very easily when you're on an elephant, if you are seen out in the open, the elephant can still be killed pretty quickly. So you want to try and obscure your view if you can, and that makes an elephant not just an I win button, but a really fun way to actually take outposts and like solve big conflicts. So I like that. I like that a lot. I think it's a great addition, and I just sent that guy like 30 feet into the air. Yeah. Elephants are great. I'm glad they added elephants. Oh. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We've got a straggler. Elephants not having your stragglers. Elephants don't care about your stragglers. Okay, where are you? Looks like I'm gonna have to hop off. Darn. That's okay though. Gives the elephant a chance to live and hopefully not get gunned down by army members. Where in the world is this guy? I have a throwing knife for you. You know you want it. I would, but I don't know where you are. Where? Oh, hi. So that happened. And yeah, outposts are still in the game. So the classic Ubisoft features, outposts, climbing towers to unlock the map, those are still in the game. In this case, I find the towers much more enjoyable because they're a lot larger. Instead of radio towers, there are bell towers. And they're much larger now. They have inside and outside actual areas where you have to climb. And I find them a bit more fun than climbing radio towers. They're still the same basic idea, though. You climb the tower, you activate the radio thing at the top, you get your map. So that's still there. Again, very, very Far Cry 3-esque, but with a little bit of a difference. What else is different? Let's see. Of course, verticality is a big deal, because you're in very mountainous terrain. The whole region is, of course, made of mountains, so verticality is a big deal, and you're going to find more vehicles that take advantage of that. Things like hovercraft that can actually go on across like mountainous rivers and the actual land at the same time, which is very useful. Things like little gyrocopters that are amazing, by the way, and I recommend flying them all the time. You can like toss Molotovs from gyrocopters and it's great. You'll also be finding hang gliders are still there and control pretty much the same way, so that's good because they're actually a lot of fun. And you also have something new, which I can't really show you here. Also, you can order bees on the enemies. Oh god! Oh god! The bees will also attack you. I can't really find a place right now to show you. You have a grappling hook. And you can only grapple in certain areas, but there are lots of areas. And the grappling hook actually changes the movement of the game significantly in areas where it's allowed. I was actually really happy to see it used as often as it was, because there are tons, especially in main storyline missions, of alternate paths where grappling hooks are useful. And in fact, that looks like one up there that I can use, so let's try it. Yep. And grappling actually works in a really nice way. You can move left and right and stuff like that while grappling. You can also jump if you are actually not being shot. You can jump if you are on... Oh, jeez. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get down. I'm getting shot. You can jump if you're attached to the rock, like, you know, you're rappelling. And that makes it interestingly enjoyable, actually, to scale a lot of very high terrain, which I think was necessary for them to put in some kind of system that allowed you to do it, because there's just so much. As you can see, I mean, there's just mountainous terrain everywhere. So that's a good thing. It changes everything up. It makes exploration more interesting because it gives you another avenue of actually exploring. The idea that verticality is very important. So I enjoy that. I think that's a change much for the better. It also helps with the whole multiple ways to approach your problems thing, when there are actually quite literally many ways, because, you know, with mountain paths and things, you can go under passes, you can go above various areas, you can even find like wells and caves and things to actually rappel down in and find a completely different approach to an area you saw earlier, which is cool. That's something that Far Cry has actually been lauded for a while, that they're really good at having the multiple ways to approach your problems idea, and this is no exception, for sure. So this is not one that you actually climb up, it's one that you swing over on, like... Oh, I missed it! Yeah, I can't get that one, it seems like. But yeah, the grappling controls are actually just fine. I'm just failing miserably because of my own ineptitude. The controls work very well. I have had one serious glitch moment, though, where the grappling rope got stuck in the rocks, and I had to basically fall to my death twice to actually get it right. So that was annoying, but that's only happened to me in one area, and I found out I just had to kind of go to the right a little bit, and thus not die. But it was definitely frustrating while it was happening. So let's talk about the gunplay. Gunplay is obviously a big focus, because it is an FPS. It's an open world game, yes. It's a Ubisoft open world game, yes. But it's an FPS. And the gunplay is one thing I've got to say that's actually better than ever in this case. It is similar to Far Cry 3, yes. Very similar. And a lot of people, I think, would say that's a good thing, because one of the best bits of Far Cry 3 was actually the way the guns handled in comparison to Far Cry 2. And that's good. They've maintained that. But what makes it better, in my opinion, is the sound assets are a bit better. The kind of tinny sound quality and some effects and voice acting that were present in Far Cry 3 aren't present anymore. That was something I had a big problem with. You still hear that in some side characters' voice acting, but it's not as prominent, and it's not nearly as annoying in effects like explosions and bullet cracks and things like that. Let's see. The other thing that I'll show you here that's made the whole thing even more enjoyable is the variety. So this basically seems to be about variety. This is Far Cry Variety Edition. And what I mean by that is they've taken kind of the best bits from Far Cry 2 and Far Cry 3 and tightened up all the mechanics and then varied everything significantly. So if we go to one of these, which is of course very similar to the safe houses that you'll find in Far Cry 3, you'll see that they've implemented a quick sell, thank God, but you'll also see that, wow, I get 300 frames per second in these menus, damn. The amount of weapons that you can actually use has been increased massively, so the sidearm selection is much better. So there's a lot of them, including an auto crossbow, which I want very badly, and you can even get sidearms that act a bit differently, a flare gun, a scorpion, SMG, a sawn-off shotgun, and a grenade launcher. And sidearms are important because one of your holsters is a sidearm holster. Unlike Far Cry 3, where you can have 4 primary weapons if you've crafted all of the holsters, in this case, the top one will always be a sidearm. So you'll need something that qualifies as that, and when you're in vehicles and on hang gliders and things like that, you can use your sidearm while driving. So it's important to have one. Also, as you can see, the main weapon list is much larger this time around. There are lots of them. And the weapon customization is a bit different. Now, it's give and take. They've taken away a lot of the customization on weapons individually. So the weapon I have here, you can see the only barrel available is a suppressor. The only scopes available are these 3, which is pretty normal. That's what it was like before. And there's an extended mag available, which I didn't have. And that is a bit of a bone of contention for some people because they really liked the weapon customization of Far Cry 3, and I would agree with them. I liked it a lot. But what they've replaced it with were signature weapons. Now, these existed in Far Cry 3, but there were very few of them. In this case, there are huge numbers of them. As you can see, there's like a signature variant for almost every weapon type. Not quite every one, but a lot of them. And what this does is it ensures that you have something for a long time to work forward to, even when you've unlocked all of the mainline weapons, and it gives you something to spend your money on. Because one of the main complaints that people had from the economy system of Far Cry 3 was that you barely needed it. You barely needed money. Once you got started and had enough ammo to go, you were kind of golden. And in this case, they've revised the economy system by adding, by first of all making things more expensive. You are working in rupees, by the way. There are more maps available, and they are quite expensive, as you can see. And there are also, as you can see here, ammo types. They are more expensive than you may have seen in Far Cry 3. There are also more of them, things like flares and harpoons, fire arrows, explosive arrows, throwing knives, yeah. And the whole addition of signature weapons revises the economy to make it to where you have something to work towards for a very long period of time. And I like that. I don't mind that. Some people don't like the compromise between, instead of having a bunch of weapon customization, you have a smaller amount of customization and then the focus on the signature weapons. I don't mind it, but I understand that some people aren't going to like that, so be aware of that. If that's something you're not liking, then that's how it is. But, let's see, Collectible Fest, definitely still the case, but like I said, I like the fact that they've contextualized the collectibles a lot better. They've made entire quest lines available through actually finding them, and they've given you a much more varied list of rewards, from new signature weapons to unlocking new skills in the skill tree to the XP and Karma system. So let's go ahead and show you the skill tree. So experience works the same way as you would expect. It works exactly the same. Skill trees are different. There are 2 of them now instead of 3, but they're a bit more varied. So the elephant, usually defensive things like getting more health. Let's see, health bars regenerate faster, and also your utility things like harvesting twice as many leaves from plants. And duration boosts for your syringes, which I want. And as you can see, a lot of these very late upgrades are quite expensive. This one costs 4 points. And also, some of them can be bought multiple times. In the case of duration boost, you can actually learn the skill 10 times if you want to, which is kind of absurd. And it's going to make syringes more and more effective every time. And what this basically does for you is, again, it gives you something to work towards for a while. One of the problems that I think people had with Far Cry 3 was that once you did a lot of things, there was a good amount of content, but it wasn't infinite. And the content still is not infinite, but it is more spread out while still being as interesting, and in my opinion, even more interesting. It is not more sparse feeling, it's just that there's more to work for. And I like that. Some people aren't going to, but again, this is an opinion piece, I guess you could say, and I'm just trying to let people know what it's like. So, spit my points. Crafting. Crafting works almost identical to the way Far Cry 3 crafting worked, but in this case, as I explained, the weapon holster system was a bit different. Also, the heavy ammo and flame flamethrower tank slings, I think they were called, are combined into one, but instead you now have a bait bag, which works a bit differently. And also, your loot bag and wallet are a lot bigger, as you can see. So your loot bag can carry up to 150 items at max, which is way more than you could carry in Far Cry 3. And since you're dealing in rupees instead of dollars, right now I can carry 1 million, which is way more than you could ever carry in dollars, of course, in Far Cry 3. And the next upgrade is 2 million, and it goes even higher than that. And the way the hunting works is almost the same, but has a bit of a difference to it, which I'll explain. So as you can see, the skinning system is pretty much the same. You have to find and skin certain animals to unlock certain things, and once you get to the last upgrade, you will need a special kind of skin that you can only get from a special animal that you get from a quest. Instead of hunting quests, they're called Kyrat Fashion Week quests now, which is kind of funny. There's even a really funny honey badger one that I won't spoil for people, but it's great. But the main difference from hunting this time around is that hunting with a bow is encouraged more. Because using a bow, using throwing knives, and using your kukri here gets you what's called a clean kill on an animal. Using any other kind of weapon like a firearm or grenades or anything like that doesn't. A clean kill is going to get you karma points, and it's going to get you double the rewards for killing that animal. So if I were to riddle a wolf full of bullet holes, I'll get a skin from it. And there's also a chance for that skin to be damaged, and thus it won't actually count as a wolf pelt, it'll just count as a damaged skin, which you have to sell. You can't actually use it for crafting. But, as you can see here, if I kill with a bow, it's a bit more difficult, but you get karma for it. And, as you'll see, I'll just go ahead and do this. As you'll see, I don't get karma for that one. When I skin this, lovely, I get a dole skin, or dole. If I skin this, I get 2. And that's the new basis of the crafting system, so it's pretty much identical with that change kept in mind to make hunting with a bow more rewarding. And karma is actually fairly important, so what does karma do? Karma, every time that meter gets full, you go up a karma level, and each level has different rewards. So the first one's going to get you a discount on ammunition. You're going to get discounts on weapons. You're going to get experience boosts, discounts and improvements on the way that the like mercenary tokens work, which I'll show you in a second, and things like that. So karma basically improves the store and also improves the way people think of you, and you can lose karma. If you kill civilians or if you kill Golden Path members, you will lose karma for every person you kill. So let's do a quest to kind of cap off the video here. We'll do an assassination quest. One thing I'd like to say is that the quest variety is much enhanced this time around. The actual variety in types is what I mean. The various sorts of quests you're going to be going up against have been enhanced. There are many more now. And they also have varied objectives and optional objectives, in fact. In this case, I actually found a quest that I had to kill a certain person with a certain weapon without being seen, and I also got a big bonus in the amount of money and experience I received if I could remain unseen and hide the body in a specific location before I escaped, again, without being seen the whole time. You didn't have to do that part, though. So what that means is that the quests themselves actually have a bit more objective variety now, and driving around in a mountainous landscape is not as easy as a tropical island, but I like that. You'll also be coming across quests like bomb defusal quests, assassination, different kinds of hunting quests that work different ways, like hunting control versus hunting like revenge and things like that. Hostage rescue quests where you have to use stealth no matter what, because if you're seen, they will execute the hostages, and they are so spread out oftentimes, and you have to actually save a certain number of them to beat the mission. If you get seen early on, there's no way you'll be able to kill all of the enemies before all of the hostages die, and you just outright fail. Including other things like, say, killing a person and taking a picture of the body to prove, like, revenge for what they did to, like, some poor old lady, and, you know, things like that. You get the idea. And, I like that. I'm really happy about the quest variety because that was one thing. I actually loved Far Cry 3, personally. A lot of problems that some people had I didn't really have, because I thought it was an enjoyable romp. But the quest variety wasn't good. There weren't that many different kinds of things to do, and in this case there are actually a lot more. So the camera, as you saw there, works exactly the same with a couple of differences. You can tag collectibles in the area if you want, if you get a skill for it, and certain enemies that are tagged, those hunter kinds, won't actually stay tagged. So that's something to be careful about. Let's switch to throwing knives. You also have bait. I'll go ahead and show you that. You get bait when you kill animals and skin them. Oh, almost got spotted there. You can throw bait out. Oh, no animals seem interested. That's unfortunate. And oftentimes what will happen is, if you get it in a good area, this area has some people around, so there might not be any animals that come for it. But bait is useful for a couple of things. If you're in an area with a lot of dangerous animals, you can lure them away, like, say, bears that can kill you very quickly. If you are wanting to cause chaos in a base, you can throw just some bait in there and hope that random honey badgers come and kill everyone, which will happen, by the way. And you can also use it for hunting specific game that you are having difficulty in finding on the map. You can go to the area where they're supposed to be and toss out some bait and hope some come to you. So there's that. Gotcha. Now, I can just finish these guys off. And you also have the classic throwing rocks to distract guards. That hasn't changed. That's still there. As you can see, you can throw rocks. So, it's still Far Cry. Yeah, so you shouldn't be surprised. It's definitely still Far Cry, but it's enough different for me to recommend it very heartily. I actually think it's the best one in the series so far. Coming from someone who liked Far Cry 3 for what it was, I am enjoying this one a lot more. So as you can see right now, I can actually flee the area if I want to, but since I was able to kill everyone, I'm going to go ahead and do the whole hide the body bonus objective to get more rewards. So some of these actually involve much more fortified areas and things like that, and make the whole hiding the body thing quite challenging. So in this case, we're going to toss him in with some devilfish, and he's not going to be seen again. Yeah. And now I can just GTFO. Vroom vroom. Quest complete. With the bonus. And so that's how it works. So, Far Cry 4, everyone. Let's see, is there anything else I really want to talk about? I'm not really sure. I think, for the most part, I've covered it. The cultural differences, the expanded exploration, the way the movement system has changed quite significantly with the verticality of the levels. That's all positive. The AI and weapon changes are good, but not everyone is going to like them, and they're definitely still imperfect. They're far from perfect. The variety in locales is interesting, because in the mountains there are actually a lot of different places, and in fact, something I wanted to show you. This is the size of the map, first of all. Pretty big. But there are also these. There are these strongholds. So everyone knows about the stronghold system, like I showed you earlier, taking an outpost. There are also these called fortresses, and fortresses are big. They're big, heavily fortified, lots of people, entrenched positions, very difficult to take, and also very story important because they involve very important characters. You can actually play co-op if you want. There is actually a full co-op in the game now. Instead of co-op being a separate mode with like really crappy missions like in Far Cry 3, you can co-op in the open world and just romp around. It's actually a ton of fun, and I would like to bring you a video of that at some point. So that's for the future. But also, going far enough into the storyline will weaken those fortresses and allow you to take them a little bit easier. And yeah. And those are interesting. Those are actually a lot of fun, because assaulting a very heavily fortified, much more difficult position is something that you didn't really do in Far Cry 3, aside from, like, maybe a few story missions in particular. In this case, they're actually placed in the open world for you to find. So that's awesome. Also, one more thing. Yeah, I almost forgot. One more very important little thing to talk about. There is a choice system in the game, and the choices matter a lot. So very early on, this is, again, no spoilers, you're going to be introduced to two characters named Amida and Sabal. You are rescued by them, no spoilers, in the beginning, and Amida is, well, they're both vying for command of the Golden Path, basically. Amida is a bit more forward-thinking. She likes to think, yes, we can save these people, but then what's next? And less traditionalist. She also tends to be more logically driven, a bit more cold sometimes, and more focused on logistics and intel. Sabal is very much a bleeding heart. He focuses on the loss of people. He's focused on the human aspect of the war and not the logistic aspect. He is very traditionalist and a bit stuck in the past. And he's difficult to read. Both of them are, really. And these characters will both be giving you missions throughout the game, and occasionally they will both have a mission at the same time, and you can only choose one. They will both disagree about what to do next. You can hear both of them out. They'll both have a proposal for you, jeez! But only one of them can be taken. And eventually... Eventually what you're going to find is only one of those is possible, because they both have opposing goals, and they involve completely separate missions that you'll do. You won't just be doing the same mission in a different way, it's actually a completely different mission altogether. It will have different outcomes, it will have impacts on the story of the game as you continue, and missions after that, and it will also determine who is ruling and commanding the Golden Path, depending on how many missions for each person you've done so far. It's interesting. They actually make you make some really hard decisions. There's some really tough choices, because just this last one, again, no spoilers, this last one involved a certain deal whether or not I should burn down an opium farm, or whether I should control the opium farm and use the drug trade to help fund the Golden Path. And, that was an interesting choice to make, because obviously those are completely opposing goals. If you take over the farm, then you have it. If you burn down the farm, then no one has it. And it involves a completely different mission with completely different outcomes, and of course the characters will talk to you quite differently depending on what you choose, and I like that a lot. I think that may be where the character of AJ comes from, actually, come to think of it. Instead of having a personality of his own, which he does have a personality, but instead of having a story of his own, he's kind of making the story by the decisions he makes on how to run and solve this civil war that's going on in Kyrat. So, I like it. I think it's a very interesting take on things. I think that, this is actually the opium farm that I'm at right now, by the way. I think that overall the decisions that you make will form a really interesting story. I think there are a lot of really cool characters, and for the first time I actually like a lot of the characters instead of just a few. Also, they brought mortars back from Far Cry 2, but they're emplacements this time, and they are cluster mortars, by the way. Cluster mortars. Yes. I like them a lot. I want to carry one with me at all times. Cluster mortars. I scared that pig to death and almost made it into instant bacon. So yeah, choice system, very cool. I hope that continues. I see that, you know, I've done a few of them so far, and I don't see those missions, you know, stopping. I'm gonna be doing more of them, making more choices, and hopefully that makes for a very cool and engrossing story, because it has so far, and I'm hopeful. So there you go, everyone. This has been a pretty long, exhaustive look at Far Cry 4. If it interests you, I will link you to the Steam description. Fair warning, you do need Uplay to use it. Excuse me. I haven't had any problems with Uplay since the launch, but still, it's important to let people know that you will need Uplay and a Ubisoft account to actually play this game, which is a deal breaker for some people. I don't blame them. Doesn't really bother me, but I'm not everyone. So yeah. Also, wingsuit. Whee! So yeah, if this world is interesting to you, I'd suggest you jump in. I'm actually having a buttload of fun. I think it's a great game. I think that it's a step in a lot of really good directions for Far Cry. It solves a lot of the issues I had with previous games. It's basically what Far Cry 3 wanted to be, in my opinion. And I have a lot of respect for it. I think that it's still got room for improvement. I think that the series is far from perfect. There's still some weird tendencies. There's still some jank. Oh, I'm getting shot to pieces. And there's most definitely still some AI issues, some glitches, some performance issues that need to be solved. And it's not perfect. Yeah, so bear that in mind. But with that warning in place, I'm comfortable with recommending it in the state that it's in. That's a rhino. That's a rhino. Oh god, that's a rhino. Let's run from the rhino. Those are beautiful birds, but that's a rhino. So yeah, I recommend it. If you like what Far Cry offers, then this is more of that, and tightened up and improved in almost every way. If you don't like what Far Cry offers, you're probably not going to find anything here besides the rhino destroying everyone to enjoy it, but I'm enjoying it a hell of a lot. There you go, folks. Any questions, comments, I'll be happy to answer them. Feel free, if you wish, to like this video, if you liked it, and I would appreciate if you would subscribe if you like my videos, because that does help me out. I don't like to beg for subscriptions too much, but I'm going to do it this time. So, subscribe if you wish. This has been Far Cry 4, and I'll see you guys next time.